LIV Golf season has reached its final event this week. All the teams and players are at Trump National Doral for the Team Championship Miami. Earlier this week, all the captains met with the media, and as expected, Phil Mickelson was asked questions about the official World Golf ranking, not dishing out points.
I'm just bringing like facts to life as to like why that's happening, but really we as a group, as a league that's trying to grow the game and bring it globally and promote the game on throughout the world, and as well as bring something different than the old stodgy format that we've had for decades. We just need to focus on what we're doing and make our product as good as possible, as interesting as possible. We need to make tweaks into our program. The OWGR needs to obviously make tweaks, but we need to tweak our format to continue to evolve and be more interesting and easier to understand. And we have enough on our plate to make our product more and more exciting and appealing that we shouldn't worry ourselves with what they're doing. But I do want to bring to light as to why exactly they're doing what they're doing. It's not what they're putting out there, on the front page. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes as to the importance of us not getting points to the PGA Tour.
Even if you made the changes that they seem to be suggesting, more pathways to the league, it sounds to be the big thing, that it wouldn't matter?
I think that the majors need to protect their product, and there's probably other ways that they can do that by creating slots. If they want to make sure that they have the best fields in golf, they could create vehicles for players on LIV to play in the majors where they don't have to use the OWGR, which would undermine the TV contract and revenue of the PGA Tour if they gave points to LIV.
Right back to you. You had just following up on what you had said earlier. You said that LIV needs to continue to evolve. How would you like to see LIV evolve now that you've kind of seen it for one full season now?
Well, I don't feel like we have a lot of ideas internally, and I think we should keep that there, because we still have to do not only, like, we might have ideas, but we have to see if they're good ideas, if they're going to work. But when you're a startup, and we've only been around a year and a half, you look at the quality of players that we have already, and that's going to continue to improve next year, and it's going to continue to improve the following year. It's important that we continue to evolve our product, our presentation. This was kind of the idea at the beginning. Like, we thought, okay, we'll have the team championship, we'll have the individual part, we'll have the team part. But all of that is flexible and should be evolved so that based on fans' needs and wants, as well as television and other entities, so it's easier to understand and it becomes more appealing.
In that same press conference, Phil was also asked about the LIV Golf season in 2024 and what changes might be coming to LIV. Here's what he had to say.
Phil, sorry, you said earlier on that you expect LIV to improve next year and have better players or more top players, and then you've said then that you've had loads of calls from DP World Tour players and PGA Tour players. Do you think there's going to be another sort of exodus, because it's been the drain sort of stopped, the move over stopped, but do you think we're going to get another tranche of it now?
Do I think that? No, I know that's going to happen. When players look at LIV, they're wanting to be a part of it. I mean, everybody here is happy and enjoying what we're doing and enjoying the team aspect of it and enjoying each other and the camaraderie and enjoying bringing golf globally and all the benefits that come with playing this tour. So there's a lot of players that see that and want to be a part of it. And the question is, how many spots are available? There's a lot more players that want to come than there are spots.
And you don't think the merger talks will affect that?
I think the merger talks allow for it. I mean, I think that it allows and kind of opens the door for that, yeah.
Because say the promotion event in December, start of December in Abu Dhabi, that's against a European Tour event, and they'll have to ask for releases. You still think that they'll go for it, even though they'll probably get fined? And
there's a lot of players that could be signed not even through the qualifying. There's spots on teams that are open that players want to come over and be a part of.
Phil Mickelson back in front of a microphone. Eamon, there was a time when he was one of the most comfortable players in front of a microphone. Not so much over the last couple of years, but it seems like he's getting his groove back. Clearly one of the top 10 to 15 players of all time, signed a lot of autographs. But when he speaks, I just don't know if I can believe everything coming out of his mouth, especially when there are so many unknowns in professional golf. He's saying, I'm spouting facts and a lot of I knows in that press conference when a lot of us, even the people in those back rooms, don't know what's happening.
Yeah, and I'd be wary of putting too much faith in the predictive abilities of a guy whose gambling partner said he lost $100 million gambling over the years. But he may be right in the most basic sense in that new players will be coming in, because LIV has announced that at least 4 guys are going to be leaving, so presumably they will be replaced. So when he says the quality of LIV players will improve, he's right. You're getting rid of the 4 worst, so presumably the 4 guys coming in might actually elevate the standard of play a little bit. But it's who they're getting is the question here. Is it anyone that matters? Everything he said, Greg Norman has said previously. If you go back 6 months, a year, Greg Norman was acting as the same propagandist that Phil is now, claiming that there is a swath of high-level players who are begging to get on this tour. And the evidence just doesn't simply back that up. Most elite players, the guys who matter, seem to have made their decision as to where they're staying. So last year they got Sebastian Munoz, they got Mito Pereira, they got Brendan Steele. Those are not needle movers at all. And so Phil's kind of pretending that there is a great future here, when the reality is this product really isn't much different than it was a year ago in terms of an audience. They no longer even publish their viewing figures from a TV audience on the CW, which isn't really a harbinger of a product that's very healthy out there. And Phil is just simply propagating this boosterism that Greg Norman used to do. Greg hasn't made any media comments since the day after the framework agreement was announced in June. He has very clearly been told to zip it by His Excellency, his employer. And so Phil is playing the booster role, and he kind of has to, because what Greg Norman sold in public, Phil Mickelson sold in private. He has acknowledged that he was a recruiter for LIV while he was still on the PGA Tour. So he's told these guys that they would be able to cherry-pick the PGA Tour events, and the court said, you're not going to do that. He told them they could cherry-pick DP World Tour events. The tribunal over there said, you're not doing that either. You know, he told them that they would be welcomed in majors, and the majors are telling them you got to earn it. He told them they would get world ranking points. They're not getting those either. He told them they would all be these visionaries hailed by the golf fans around the world, and they've been accused of being stooges for sports washing. So he has to continue, because Phil sold them this lie. So of course he has to continue to tell them that the great lie is rolling on, that the future is bright.
But are they getting closer? On that dais, the reigning PGA champion and Brooks Koepka, who just competed in the Ryder Cup for the United States. To his right, the Open Championship, the 150th, Cameron Smith, one of the great short game displays we ever saw on the 17th hole. Sergio Garcia's on that dais. Do you think that, but they have great players. That's unquestionable. Will LIV do what is necessary to get the official World Golf ranking points that they need? Even Phil seemed to demur on that question.
They won't, because Greg Norman has explicitly said that they do not intend to become compliant. And when Phil is talking about that he's bringing out facts in this world golf ranking debate, he's doing the exact opposite. He's bringing out statements of opinion rather than facts. You know, he's claiming that all the majors are colluding against LIV to protect the PGA Tour's TV deal. The PGA Tour's TV deal is entirely irrelevant to the majors. They all have their own broadcast rights deals out there. And, you know, he's talking about that if LIV players get these ranking points, that somehow the PGA Tour loses leverage. What leverage? They're not negotiating with anyone. They don't have rights deals that are up for the next 9 or 10 years at this point. He's just throwing out all of these false equivalencies and outright deceptions to pretend that there is a widespread industry collusion against LIV. And he never at one point acknowledges that LIV was not compliant when it launched and has made no effort to become compliant since then. That's the reason why they're not getting world ranking points. It's not this kind of gaslighting conspiracy that he's talking about.
In some way, has he been vindicated, even only halfway or partially, to see that the changes that the PGA Tour has made, to see that at least an agreement, they may not have a framework agreement that's actually built, but agreement to have a discussion to try to find some common ground? Does Phil have any area where he can kind of tip his cap? I mean, he sat on that dais. They weren't asking questions to the other guys. It was question after question after question to a 6-time major champ who used to be one of the 2 most popular figures in this game.
Well, no one else on that dais has really kind of put themselves forward as a quasi-official spokesman for LIV in the manner that Phil Mickelson has. You can absolutely argue that some of the changes Phil Mickelson wanted to see in terms of player equity or governance of the PGA Tour would not have happened without this. And you can certainly say that making those arguments was perfectly valid. It's an entirely different thing to say that the best means of obtaining all of those changes is to ally yourself with people who chop up journalists.
And to maybe put a torch to your former employer that helped make you the player that you are in terms of the endorsements, the visibility, the history that he made as a 6-time major champ, a players' champ, and such a popular figure, a beloved figure in this game, and the way he went out. That's the issue I think that a lot of people have when they look at his career toward the end of it, post-PGA Championship.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, it's very hard to believe a word that comes out of Phil's mouth anymore because there doesn't appear to be an honest gene in there. He's a propagandist for murderers, and he's quite happy with that. He's embraced that role, and he can talk about wanting to improve his product and the audience engagement and players calling him. There will always be players who want money, and there will always be players who either haven't made that breakthrough or can't quite stay on top, who are always eager for knowing what that next cash out looks like. But it doesn't necessarily add legitimacy to the product. The only legitimacy LIV has accumulated in a year and a half was handed to it during the framework agreement by the very tours that it was actually attempting to overthrow.
And listening to him, it is hard to know where the propaganda begins and the truth ends, and where he sits even at this point in his career. It's just hard to know and hard to follow everything that's coming out of his mouth.
It's just a never-ending debate.